Manchester City have booked their place in the Carabao Cup final with a commanding semi-final victory over Newcastle United. But even as celebrations followed at the Etihad Stadium, Pep Guardiola's attention quickly shifted toward a controversial issue that could impact City's squad selection at Wembley. City's progression to the final was never in serious doubt. Across the two-legged semi-final, Guardiola's side demonstrated authority, control and tactical maturity, shutting down Newcastle's hopes with an early and decisive performance in the second leg. Despite making changes to his lineup, Guardiola once again underlined the strength and depth within his squad, ensuring City remained dominant from the opening stages. The second leg in particular showcased Guardiola's careful management of minutes during a congested period of the season. With major fixtures approaching across multiple competitions, the City manager rotated key players while maintaining intensity and structure. This calculated approach allowed City to strike early, dictate the tempo, and extinguish any possibility of a Newcastle comeback before the tie could become uncomfortable. However, while the result confirmed City's place in another domestic final, Guardiola used the post-match spotlight to raise serious concerns about Carabao Cup regulations, specifically rules that could prevent a fully registered Manchester City player from featuring in the final against Arsenal in March. As attention turns toward Wembley, preparation and player availability have become central talking points. For Guardiola, the issue is no longer just about scheduling or travel to London, long a familiar frustration for City in domestic cup competitions, but about governance and logic within the competition's rules. Speaking to Sky Sports following the semi-final second leg victory, Guardiola made his feelings clear, revealing his intention to push Manchester City to formally request a rule change from the competition's organisers. Hopefully we can convince the Carabao Cup that Marc Guehi can play the final because it's difficult to understand, Guardiola said. The City manager's frustration was evident as he continued, questioning why a player signed by the club and registered as part of the first team squad could be barred from participating in the competition's showpiece event. The club made a big investment to play one player, take one player. He belongs to us and I don't understand why he cannot play the final, honestly, Guardiola explained. We'll make a letter and hopefully they can understand that once you buy a player for a lot of money and he's not able to play for a rule that I don't understand, hopefully they can change it and he can play. The issue stems from eligibility regulations tied to earlier rounds of the competition. Marc Guehi was unavailable for the second leg victory over Newcastle because he did not join Manchester City before the first leg of the semi-final, played in the North East last month. As a result, competition rules deemed him ineligible to feature at that stage. In contrast, Sverre Nypan, recently recalled from his loan spell at Middlesbrough, was eligible for selection, having not appeared for Middlesbrough in this season's Carabao Cup. The differing eligibility outcomes only added to Guardiola's confusion and frustration, particularly given that the final is still 2 months away. Guardiola expanded on the matter during his post-match press conference, speaking candidly to reporters about what he sees as a lack of common sense in the current regulations. Apparently, Marc couldn't play the second leg against Newcastle because he didn't play the first, Guardiola said, and Antoine de Semenyo arrived before the first could play. But now it's the final. Why should he not play? Why not? He's a Man City player. We pay his salary. We hired him. He's our player. Why should he not play? The City manager made it clear that he believes the club has a responsibility to challenge the rule, even if success is unlikely. We want to ask, I said to the club. They have to ask. Yeah, definitely, Guardiola continued. I don't understand the reason why he cannot play in the final of the Carabao Cup in March when he has been here for a long time. For Guardiola, the inconsistency clashes with broader football regulations governing player transfers and registrations. He questioned why a player approved to compete domestically under Premier League, FIFA and UEFA regulations could be restricted by competition-specific rules in a domestic cup final. The rules to buy a player depends on FIFA. UEFA or the Premier League say, OK, the transfer window is open, you want to buy a player and they have to play. No, he said. The competition's logic, I don't understand why he could not play today, but in the final, in 2 months' time, of course, we are going to try to ask to play because it's pure logic. Despite his strong stance, Guardiola admitted he is realistic about the outcome. When asked what response he expects from the English Football League, he answered honestly, no. To change the rules, no way, but we will try. Competition regulations are rarely altered mid-season, and Guardiola acknowledged that history is not on City's side. Nevertheless, his comments underline a broader concern about fairness and consistency, particularly when finals represent the pinnacle of domestic cup football. With Arsenal now waiting at Wembley, Manchester City's focus will be split between maintaining peak fitness levels and preparing tactically for the final. Clarity over squad selection remains crucial, especially if the request to allow Marc Guéhi to feature is ultimately rejected. Should that happen, Guardiola will be forced to rely on alternative options within his squad. One such option is Ruben Dias, who has recently returned from a hamstring injury and is gradually being reintegrated as City manage his workload carefully. As the countdown to March continues, Manchester City's Carabao Cup final build-up will not only be shaped by tactics and training sessions, but also by discussions behind the scenes over regulations that Guardiola believes lack logic. Whether the club's request gains any traction remains to be seen. What is clear, however, is that Guardiola is unwilling to stay silent when he believes a rule undermines fairness, especially with silverware pride and a Wembley final against Arsenal on the line. Guardiola's stand, why a rule change makes sense for Manchester City. As Manchester City continue their march toward the Carabao Cup final, Pep Guardiola's bold stance on the eligibility issue surrounding Marc Guéhi will no doubt stir further debate within English football. While Guardiola's comments may have raised eyebrows, his argument for a rule change goes beyond just one player and points to a deeper issue within the current structure of the competition. For Guardiola, this is about ensuring fairness and consistency in domestic competitions, something that is fundamental to the modern game. The situation highlights how players who are legitimately signed and registered with a club can sometimes find themselves unable to participate due to rules that, in Guardiola's words, don't make sense. This is not about Marc alone, Guardiola stressed in his post-match interview. This is about how the rules should be more flexible, more in tune with the realities of the modern transfer market and squad management. Indeed, the nature of football has evolved considerably in recent years. Teams now make significant investments in players throughout the season, including during mid-season transfer windows where clubs can spend large sums to improve their squad and strengthen their chances in competitions. If clubs like Manchester City are to invest such significant resources in new signings, it only makes sense that those players should be eligible to play in key fixtures like cup finals, especially when they have been with the team for a period that allows them to train and integrate with the squad. Guardiola's desire for change reflects a broader frustration with how competition rules often lag behind the reality of squad rotations, tactical flexibility and modern squad building strategies. If a player is deemed fit to compete for the league, Champions League and other domestic cups after joining in the middle of a season, why should a singular rule limit their involvement in a final? Guardiola's position is further strengthened when considering that other football leagues across Europe have handled similar situations differently. In many leagues, players who join mid-season can often be immediately registered for cup competitions with only minimal restrictions, if any, on their eligibility for key fixtures. Manchester City's situation, therefore, may not just be about a single tournament rule, but could set a precedent for how future signings are handled across all domestic cups in England. Manchester City's preparation for Arsenal, balancing tactics and squad depth. As the final approaches, Guardiola faces the challenge of maintaining his team's fitness and form. While the discussions about Guéhi's eligibility are important, the team cannot afford to lose focus on the tactical battle ahead against an Arsenal team that is expected to be formidable. Arsenal's recent form has been a cause for concern for many of their Premier League rivals. Mikel Arteta's side has strengthened their squad during the winter window. and their consistency in both domestic and European competitions has been impressive. Arsenal will no doubt be motivated to secure another trophy, especially with the team still chasing league titles and other domestic honours. For Guardiola, the focus now shifts to ensuring that his squad remains at peak fitness and ready for the challenge ahead. While players like Ruben Dias, who has just returned from injury, provide essential depth to the squad, the manager will be keen to make sure his best players are match fit for the Carabao Cup final. Guardiola has built a team that thrives on versatility, and one of the key aspects of City's success this season has been the rotation and tactical adaptability of the squad. The ability to call on multiple players for different roles depending on the needs of the moment will be essential against Arsenal, whose style is expected to test Manchester City's defensive solidity and creativity. With several of City's star players expected to feature prominently in the final, including Erling Haaland, Kevin De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva, Guardiola will be looking for performances that combine high intensity with intelligent decision-making. The impact of the Guehi situation on the team and squad dynamics mark Guehi's potential absence in the Carabao Cup final, should the rules remain unchanged, would add an additional layer of complication for Guardiola as he looks to set his team up against Arsenal. The centre-back's defensive capabilities and leadership qualities could be key, especially in a high-stakes match at Wembley. However, with the ruling in place, Guardiola will be forced to rely on his other defensive options. Ruben Dias, who has only recently returned to full fitness after his hamstring injury, could be called upon to step into the centre-back position alongside John Stones or Manuel Akanji. While Dias's return is a significant boost to City's defensive options, Guardiola will need to ensure that his players are both physically and mentally prepared for the intensity of a cup final. The absence of Guehi, should the rule not be changed, would also serve as a reminder of the ongoing challenges faced by top clubs in navigating the intricate rules and regulations of domestic competitions. In a season where City is fighting for multiple trophies across all fronts, this one issue highlights how even the smallest of rule discrepancies can disrupt a club's planning and overall strategy. In terms of squad dynamics, the uncertainty surrounding Guehi's eligibility could serve as a motivating factor for City's other players. Squad unity is always an important element for Guardiola's teams, and a situation like this one provides an opportunity for the players to rally together, especially in what is set to be one of the most important finals of the season. Can Manchester City make progress in getting the rules changed? While Guardiola has made it clear that he will push for a rule change ahead of the final, it remains to be seen whether the English Football League, EFL, will entertain such a request. The likelihood of success is uncertain, particularly as competition regulations rarely change mid-season. However, Guardiola's public call for change has already set the wheels in motion, and the club is likely to send an official letter to the EFL in the hope of gaining an exemption for Guehi. Guardiola is known for his passion, and his comments reflect his strong belief in fairness and the rights of clubs to field their best possible teams in important fixtures. Even if the EFL does not grant an exemption, Guardiola's stance serves as a reminder of how far top managers are willing to go to ensure they have the best possible chance of winning silverware. If Manchester City's request is rejected, it will be a bitter pill for the club to swallow, especially given their investment in a player who could have made a significant impact in the final. But in Guardiola's mind, the push for change isn't just about the immediate game. It's about paving the way for a more logical, modern approach to competition rules in the future. As the March final against Arsenal approaches, Guardiola and Manchester City will be determined to find every possible edge, whether it's securing a tactical advantage, making sure their squad is fully fit, or pushing for changes to rules that seem outdated and restrictive. One thing is certain: City will not go down without a fight.